Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom with your host, Bill Stierle, and today we're going to talk about a recent current event, but really what it's going to be is truth and context versus subtext. And this is directly related to recent tweets and statements by the president regarding 4 congresswomen in the United States and about, they should go back to the countries that they came from, in sort of air quotes here. And really, is that a racist statement? And are the other things the president has said around this, are they actually racist statements? And I think it's a good question to pose and to start to unpack. Wouldn't you agree, Bill?
Yeah, this is a biggie because one of the things that shows up in language when I'm listening to things is I really want to slow down the way I'm hearing the message, as well as understanding how the listener or the series of listeners can be taking the message. There's a difference, and there's a certain amount of sophistication and maturity that people have. Everybody has their education. Everybody has their language, where they've gotten to school, their lot in life, their skill level on everything from work to money to how they're living their life. So language works very much the same way. If I can't expect my 12-year-old to speak and using an adult voice or having adult awareness, it would at the same level as my 17-year-old, it's the same level as my 26-year-old. I can't let my brain think that we're speaking the same language and it all means the same thing. So a big part of truth and context and subtext is learning how to listen to the sentences that people say and learning how to take them in a certain way, as well as reflect of how others might take them. Then our message is going to be much better. It's going to be much better. And even the misunderstanding and even the infighting and even the protective language that shows up. Well, guess what? You know what? We've got to do a much, much better job of learning how language actually works. So that's what today is about, is how does language work, how to listen to it better, and how to have an effective response to when somebody says, if you don't like America, you can leave. Go back to the country, whatever the quote is, and we could get it verbatim because I think there's many different sources of verbatim. But what we're going to do now is we're going to just kind of break down language a little bit, Tom.
Okay, that sounds great. And one of the things that really I think maybe we ought to acknowledge as we're stepping into this is that it seems to me, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, Bill, but the media were the first to label the president's statements as racist, or then to ask everybody if asking them to go back to where they came from is a racist statement.
Yeah, how did you take that? How did you take that? Did you take it as a racist thing? Or where's this sentence in reference to things? What will people do with this sentence? There's media people crying online, on the air, feeling scared and worried that someone's going to get hurt, physically hurt from this. There's going to be physical violence from this. There's going to be a further divide in American communication because of this. It's it's one thing to have a person of a strong opinion, but if the person in the strong opinion is in the place of leadership, then there is, are you on our side or are you not on our side? Then there's a division that's showing up. And America sort of isn't built that way, like through the Constitution and the co-equal branches of power. It's built to foster and support collaboration and cooperation between points of views. That's what it is built for. It's not built for one person gets to say something and their way goes the way they want it to go. They have to build allegiances and alliances and get people to support them, not just because not just because it's your party that's doing it, but is it because it's the best thing for America, which is the thing that's not working right now. Okay, they're voting for allegiances and alliances. They're not voting for what's best for America necessarily. From some people say, well, we want our vote. This is what's best for America. No, that's not what's happening. That's not what's fully happening. Okay, all right. So let me put a slide up here so that you and I can actually experience the level of problem that's taking place, but also just to throw our arms gently around the disconnect, and have a positive response to it. And the positive response is going to be something that is going to be a jaw dropper for many of the people that are listening to this podcast. And if you're a person that's listening to this and you're a person from media, please play this thing over and over again, because this is a really important podcast. If you're a politician that's listening to this, please, if you are working for a politician on either side of that, this is a bipartisan podcast. Even though there's going to be opinions going back and forth, I want you to know this is a unifying podcast. This is something to bring it together, because truth is being purchased and lost over this primary communication problem. All right. So Tom, on our screen, can you see the word context and subtext?
Absolutely can. And for those listening on the podcast, you're going to want to go to the blog post at billstierle.com and see this blog post. And there is this slide. And also you could watch this video if you prefer.
Okay, thanks, Tom, for that. And just for those who are doing the audio piece, the slide's divided into a 3-section. There's a title at the top, and then there is 2 sections that have a vibration or like a sound frequency in each of the 2 sections. So the first section is the title, Reading, Listening to Context, then speaking to the subtext. Let me say it again. Reading and listening, or listening to the context, then speaking to the subtext. So far, so good, Tom?
I'm with you so far, yeah.
All right. So at the top is at the next section, it says context language. And then there is a fast-moving vibration. Think of visually thinking of an EEG scan on a heart monitor or something like that. And you'll see that there's this line going up and down, and the vibration is going up in a higher frequency. Now, the people that are watching the video are easily seeing on the second section where it says subtext language, it's a slower wave. It's a slower moving vibration that is underneath the context language above. Okay, so Tom, let's, before we do something hard, let's do something easy, okay?
Okay.
All right, Tom. So we're going to take the sentence, I like her, as a context sentence. Okay?
Okay, yeah.
So as 2 guys, we're sitting at a restaurant and we're out with a group of friends, and I lean over to you and I whisper in your ear and I say, I like her.
Okay.
Tom, what did I mean by that? What was my
I
understand?
think to me it'd be pretty clear that you meant you thought she was attractive
Okay. All right.
because it's a visual. You made a visual observation, assuming you didn't speak with her.
Correct. Right? All right. So your analysis is on point that I'm finding her attractive. Now, let me give you the subtext sentence that goes with that. The subtext sentence is, Bill, could you be feeling delighted because you would like to connect with her? That's the subtext of that. The feeling word delighted, because that's in my voice. The need that I'm pursuing, connection. Now, if I put a further tone into it, I like her. It could be, Bill, could you, creepy. Bill, could you be feeling excited because you have some thoughts of intimacy over there. You would like to be intimate with her. Do you see that just the slight tone change, the context is staying the same. I like her. The subtext has changed with the tone and the re-explanation or the re-motivation of what the tone is. Now, this is where the president and the media and all the people around him are really getting into trouble. Really, really getting in trouble because they're listening to the tone and they're saying, he didn't mean that. And he comes back and says, no, this is the way I meant it. So your dog has a need for connection.
Well, we have separated audio tracks, so as long as I'm not talking, we can ignore that and just continue, and they'll edit that out for future reference. I'll hopefully something spooked her, but
The dog has a need for connection and then is meeting the need for safety.
Yeah. Okay. So guys, obviously edit this out. So try and restart that little section.
Be happy to do it.
Thank you.
So what happens is the president and the media, what they're doing is doing a thing called take the bait. Taking the bait is that you're listening to a context and then you're listening to an explanation that comes after the context or a justification that happens after the context. And then they're going to as they call it on media, he's spinning it this way. This is a lie about this thing.
Sure, that he's walking it back or whatever, right?
That's another phrase.
Term used, right?
He's walking this back. There's the problem is that language has such a sensitivity to it, is that in the past, many politicians, in order to meet a great deal of safety for things to be taken a certain way, would sound boring, will sound very flat, will sound not very energized about the decision that they made, the point of view that they're trying to think, because they're not trying to stir the hornet's nest. They don't want to be called a flip-flopper. They don't want to be called something, I'm going to have to fight with this. Even Ted Cruz, I don't want to be known as a flip-flopper. Or, wait a minute, let me say it that way. I'd rather be known as a flip-flopper for 2 weeks rather than Trump voters holding me to what I just said 2 years from now. I'd rather be a flip-flopper on this issue. Right now, because the bandwidth is short, rather than if I stand firm with my values, the voter's going to punish me for it in the long run. He has said that out loud. I think it was written in one of the books, one of the recent books, The American Carnage or something. I think you read something like that. Anyway, I'm not sure if it was that book or another book. Okay. So the context and subtext, Tom. Now, I'm going to change the sentence, Tom, and you tell me the new meaning. You ready? Here it comes.
Ready. Yep.
I like her.
Okay. And so what would be the meaning? It's certainly not that you really like her. It's the opposite of you like her. You're saying I really don't like her.
Yeah, the subtext is you gave me the meaning, and the subtext is I feel doubtful. It doesn't meet my need for truth. I'm not interested in connection. It's not a possibility for me. She's not my type. All of those are alternative meanings to the one that you gave me, but the subtext sentence is I feel doubtful. My need for truth isn't met.
Okay.
So far, so good?
Yes.
All right. Awesome. One more time. Here it comes. I like her.
Okay.
What did I mean?
That, well, that you're sounding emphatic that you do like her, and the subtext is probably your need for truth is met, that she is in alignment with how you think.
Right. And I feel confident. Notice the feeling changed and the need changed with the intention or the motivation. The reason why this easy example, we're using this in reference to context and subtext, is because when we get to a complex label or a complex diagnosis or complex phrasing or a motivation that somebody is doing, or even a psychological label, we've got to be ready to speak subtext to that. For all you media people, press people, please, 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 please learn how to speak subtext. And that'll allow you to easily talk from both sides of the issue, easily. Because what happens is people put their foot in the dog poop so much because I didn't mean it that way. Now all of a sudden they're apologizing, but they really don't need to apologize. What they need to do is clarify what they've said in subtext. You know, I said this with the motivation of, and I feel disappointment that people took it from a different motivation. See, we talk about subtext as the motivator. What need is driving the language sentence that's being spoken? People, most news media people have picked a side. They've picked a side right now, and when they're picking a side, all they're doing is they're promoting, propagating their meaning of what they've said to the best way they would like the meaning to it. It becomes almost weird because they're defending a narrower subtext, not a fuller subtext about how the population in the world is going to be taking what the person is saying. Oof. So
Okay. Wow.
now we are ready to take on something very difficult. And then we're going to take on the president's sentence. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So just like the sentence, I like her as a context sentence, this is a real sentence that I heard and helped facilitate how to communicate with a group of people that I was training in Flint, Michigan during the water crisis. True story, true sentence, to a group of 75 people that were being trained with me in communication. And here's the sentence. It's at the start of the day. I say, hi, I'm Bill Stierle, and today we're going to be talking about how to speak to conflict and how to talk in a more effective and communicate more effective way to really the difficult messages that people have been speaking to you. Let's do something difficult. Write down, this is to the group of 75 people, write down the worst things that people have said to you. And let's take a look at some of these. Write it down. They post them up on the wall. I had them do that exercise. I spin around. I say, okay, I want to take a real difficult one on here. I look at the top of the list, and here it is, Tom. You are a racist, exclamation point.
So, Bill, let's make sure that this is really clear to our listeners.
Please.
You were brought in as a consultant to the city government of Flint, Michigan, to help them learn how to deal with all of the comments and calls they're getting from their citizens over the Flint water crisis. And these people you're talking to, among other things, are the people fielding the phone calls from residents. Mm-hmm. And a resident actually calls the person on the other end of the phone line who answers the call when they call to the city government.
Yeah, in person.
Oh, even in person? Some people are walking in?
That's right. Even in person. Even in person.
And these citizens are, I'm not going to delve into why, but upset to say the least. They are so upset that they, and I guess they weren't hearing the kind of message communication back from the city workers, what they wanted to hear. And the worst thing you saw someone actually was told, one of those city workers was, you are a racist. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for the clarification.
All right. I just wanted to make sure this is, I mean, I know you gave a little context, but I mean, this is serious. And this was national news. This is a huge, tragic situation in this city.
Yeah.
And people's health and security was at serious risk.
That's right.
All right.
All right. So the thing is that, well, how do you speak subtext to that context language in order to de-escalate the conflict as well as have a productive conversation where both people are being heard and you're able to provide the support to the person that is saying the sentence, you are a racist. So I asked them, I said, we've got to develop a subtext. We've got to have a series of sentences that we need to say back because there's a lot of motive. This sentence could be taken in a lot of ways. So I had them divide and had them fill in the blank of two different groups of words. First, Tom, the first group of word is, what was the tone or the energy or the kind of the feeling behind or that's being expressed during the you are a racist, and how many ways could that be done? And then what is the motive? What is the good reason why someone would call somebody else a racist? Now look how weird that question is. What's the good reason why they would do it? What's the good reason why? And the good reason why is because there is a certain motive, there's a certain need, there's a certain thing that they're pursuing in order to do that. So Tom, just make a mental note of this because we're going to give 4 words that we generated inside the group for each thing, 4 different words. So on the energy and the feeling and the tone side of the fence, we had aggravated, angry, helpless, and furious. See those 4 words?
I do.
Good. So aggravated, angry, helpless, furious. On the other side, when we're looking for the motive and for what need that was being driven, we had the need for support. We had respect. We had fairness, and we had justice. Those were the 4.
Okay.
All right. So if I'm going to speak compassionately, empathetically, I need to put those 4 words and I need to match them. So I took them through an exercise, and I'm going to have you play the part of the
Okay.
person. And I said, which one of the people at this table, who said that to you? And this guy raises his hand and I go, okay, great. Could you role play with me? So Tom, you're going to do the role play.
So I'm the role of the city worker who is the recipient of the citizen's statement, I guess, or comment.
I'm going to make it easier on you. I'm going to make you the citizen calling.
Oh, I'm the citizen. Okay.
You get the easy sentence. You get to point at me and call me a racist 4 times.
Oh my goodness.
So that's a toughie. So you're going to do it, but I would like for you to personalize it a little bit and really shoot the bullet. So just point and say, Bill, comma, you are a racist. And we're going to do this 4 times.
Okay.
And then whatever I say next, because I'm going to be speaking subtext, whatever I say next, watch what your body says naturally. Just watch what comes out of your body naturally, and then just say that. Okay? All right. Here it comes.
Bill, you're a racist.
So, sir, could you be aggravated and you really need some support and you would like me to support you differently? Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you see what happened?
Yeah, it diffused me. It took me immediately. It gave me something to think about that was not what I would expect, which is probably saying, no, sir, I'm not, or whatever. I mean, I wouldn't have expected them to agree with me.
You wouldn't expect me. So, sir, you would like me to support you differently. Aggravated support. So I took the first word, aggravated, and I matched it with the word support on the other side.
Okay.
And I put that together as a compassionate and empathetic response. It's a little hard to believe. Some people say it won't work. It's like, have you ever tried it? Have you ever put those 2? Have you ever learned how to speak subtext when somebody's spitting nails in your direction? Oh, this won't work with my mother. This won't work with my wife. This won't work with my kid. As if I haven't heard this for 17 years. Okay, so really, seriously, let me try it. I can reduce a tantrum in somebody else's kid as a 4-year-old tantrum in 3 to 7 seconds using subtext language. Somebody else's kid.
Yeah.
And feel confident about it. The parents, for their part, they'll feel uncomfortable about it because they think they should know. The answer is they just don't have the knowledge or the skill. So that's okay. So I lend them my skills. Why? Because I would like a peaceful walk. I'd like some peace in the airplane with a screaming kid. I really would.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can help with this. And I would like peace. In order to get peace in the plane, would you be willing to allow me to receive you, to give you some support? The parent goes, yeah, please. Anything. And I say 3 sentences to the kid quiets down. Oh, that worked. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get back to our racist thing. So go ahead, give me the sentence again, and let me see what kind of empathy I can give you.
All right. Bill, you're a racist.
So, sir, I'm guessing, could you be angry and you need some respect, and I'm not giving you the respect you would like. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now they might have a follow-up sentence to that I need to speak in a subtext to. They might have a complaint that they need to subtext to. I need to think about what the tone that they're speaking from and what the motive is that they're speaking from. But Tom, I am not talking about racism right now. All I'm talking about is the motive of the good reason why they called me that. It's the good reason.
Well, they thought you didn't respect them at all. You didn't care about their needs at all.
Right. Right, and eventually we're going to get to some real the current issue. All right, so you got 2 more times, Tom. So give it to me again.
Okay. Bill, you're a racist.
So, sir, could you be feeling helpless and you really need some fairness? And this is another example about how fairness hasn't taken place inside the city. And you would like a fair response and a supportive response. Is that correct?
Among other things, yes.
Yeah, it's like,
I mean, it probably is realistic, right? They had lots of issues.
They
right?
have lots of issues. And I'm really glad you said that, because yes, I'm trying to protect my family. I've just lost my job. I've got this money piece. The real estate in Flint just went down again, another couple $100,000. That was money out of my pocket. And I can't sell this house because it's a condemned house. All of this stuff is going through the person's noggin. And the answer is, I'm not your enemy.
Right.
I am your ally. And I'm going to deal with the word racist just so that you know that I'm your ally. Because I'm not going to believe I am, and I am not going to take on your pain. I am going to be there for you as you and I are going through this painful experience, but I'm not going to, I'm going to, be good. Okay. So now so does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do it one more time, and then we can wrap up this section.
Okay. Bill, you're a racist.
So could you be feeling furious because your need for justice hasn't been met? And this is another example how there hasn't been justice for you, for the people in your community, for the city of Flint. Is that all
absolutely
correct?
Yes.
Now I got an absolutely a yes out of that last one.
Well, I think justice, isn't that really an overarching need? I think it covers a great many issues that someone in this situation might have. That's just my feeling.
So that's a real good catch on your side, because you're noticing the deeper nuance of it. And again, we are not talking about whether the person is or is not a racist, or whether the person should or should not have called the other person a racist. See the difference?
Right, I do.
We're not discussing the nuances of racism. What we're doing is we're connecting to the motive of what the person is saying or what the person is going through. What is the good motive? What is the good need that the person is going through? And that allows the de-escalation to take place. Yeah, during the training, I then asked the person that was playing your role, Tom, I said, how do you feel right now after role playing with me?
Oh, what'd they say?
He looked at me and he says, I have two things. A part of me feels amazed because I had no idea this much was going on underneath him. And then the next thing he said was, I'm really feeling sad because now I can see what he was going through. It wasn't about me at all. It was about what he was going through. And he wasn't calling me a racist. He was just using those words to discharge pain. And that's the sentence I put on. He's just using the words to discharge pain.
Wow. Bill, isn't this a fantastic example of how arguing the fact of are you or are you not a racist is not the point? It is not going to accomplish anything.
Nope, because then you got, and it was funny because some of those people recommended that, and I have my two hands up for those of you who are audio. I've got one hand talking on this side and one hand talking on this side. And watch this. You're a racist. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you're a racist. This is why you're racist. This is why I'm not a racist. This is not what I meant. This is what I meant. This is why I'm racist. Oh my gosh, Tom. All of them are just exchanging context sentences with no deepening, no compassion, no humility, no sense of understanding of reaching for the other side, and causing the divide based on a language of agreement. This is what the definition of racism is. This is an example of the categories. We are now in a courtroom instead of in a dialogue.
Right.
We are trying to prove who pulled the trigger and what it meant to pull the trigger. We are now taking our political world, collapsing it with our criminal justice world, looking for right and wrong instead of looking for meaning and motive. We've got to find the meaning, the motive, and proportionalizing that. Because if we're not doing that, then what we're doing is we're just dividing and exacerbating violence. We're making the violence get bigger. It becomes exasperating. We're poking a stick at it. All right, so far so good?
Absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right.
So let's get to the modern political turmoil and how can we apply this there?
Great. Which one would you like to do? Would you like to do the Trump piece, or would you like to do the 4 Congress people?
Well, I guess I was thinking of them as one and the same in this context. Maybe I guess I'm not seeing who you are.
Wow. See that? It's like which sentence you want to take on, which inflammatory sentence.
Well, I'd like to take on the original one that the president tweeted, where he was directing it at the 4 minority lawmakers.
Yes.
To go back to their crime-infested, I think is the actual word, countries that he used.
Fix it there.
To go back to their crime, and that was his tweet. Their crime-infested countries.
Yes.
And suggested that they try to solve the issues in those countries first before trying to change things here in the United States. I mean, that was paraphrasing, not quoting the tweets word for word, but that was really what he said that set this whole situation in motion.
Okay, so the sizzle is the context, the steak is the subtext. So let's do that. Okay, so let's first deal with how people are hearing that sentence. Just like in the you are a racist sentence, it's the same thing. It's a context sentence. It's I feel angry. This is me empathizing with the president. I feel angry, the president is saying to us, because I have a need for recognition. And I have a need for identity to believe that Americans are a great people. And we are better off than everyone else. Stop criticizing how good we are.
Stop criticizing how good we are?
That's what he's meaning by
okay.
Go back to the countries and see if you can fix it there. We're much better than them because my slogan is Make America Great Again. And my people are believing that America is great. And for the only thing that's wrong with America is people who criticize America.
I see.
Get in alignment with the identity that I am pitching to you, which is America's great. Don't criticize. Do things the way I want, and things will be better for you. That's what he's doing.
Okay.
It's an identity need that he's talking about. He's not even fully, although there's a part of him that is attached to the racism part, but he's not even fully, he's just fully reacting to, here's these people saying things about my respect for the country, my respect, my recognition for what it took for me to do the thing I did as a president and going through the campaign. This is the acknowledgement I would like, and this is the respect I would like. and the words that you're saying are not giving me those things. So you go back to the country that you came from. You get the hell out of here, because I get to say to people, get the hell out of here. It's one of the things I've done in my entire private life, is to fire people and get people out of there that don't do things the way I want them to. And if I want it done my way, then I want it done my way. I don't want to talk to other people. I just want it done my way, because that's the way I operated in my private life. I ran a whole TV show on this. This is what is going to make the difference. You are fired. Why are you fired? Because you didn't do it the way I would like it, or this other person did it better. So his cabinet is filled with people that he has fired or have left the show.
I'm kind of chuckling at that. His cabinet is filled with people that he's fired or left the show.
Right.
And yeah.
They've left the show or they got fired out of the show. They weren't doing the things that the way I wanted them to, or they got so much trouble that they weren't meeting my need for identity. I want to be known as this person. See, people voted for him because he was showing a strong identity. He was speaking so much in context that nobody could see that all the context that he was speaking was sizzle. Even though people kept pointing down, he has no policy, he has no knowledge, he has no skill in governance. The answer is, yeah, that's not what people voted for. They voted for this identity of somebody that they've seen and known, and looks like that they're in command of their environment, unlike me, that I am not in command in my environment. He says he's going to fight for me and being in command for the environment. He's going to fix my environment for me because I've watched them do it on the TV show. The context is, I'll fight for you.
Right.
I am going to meet the need for protection. I'm going to protect you from these evil Democrats. That's another one of his things. They're bad people. That's a wrong thing.
Or from the Mexicans bringing drugs and crime over the southern border, right?
I'm going to protect you. I'm fighting for you. Your identity is what I'm fighting for, to make America great again, is to fight these evil elements.
Okay.
So the 44% vote, the people are voting for him, they're not in touch with either policy or what government is and does. They don't know the complexity and the nuances of government and what it does for them. Most of government is transparent to human beings, to the people of the United States. There's a lot of government. I mean, a simple dialogue about who pays for police officers and who pays for firemen. They're public servants because we're paying taxes so that they can meet our need for protection. And that is something that's valuable. There's also other problems in our society that government looks to nudge in the right direction. Not necessarily fix 100%, but nudge in the right direction. So here's some ideas. How about welfare? How about if we just stabilize the poor? Part of welfare works, and part of welfare was terrible because it caused the wrong habit pattern to show up inside human beings. It wasn't the strongest habit pattern for people talking about when I get my check. That's not my strongest habit pattern. The strongest habit pattern is you got to put something with the money, not just the money. You got to put like skills training next to it, or job placement next to it, or you got to do other things in order to shift the needle. You can't just like throw money at stuff.
Right.
Okay. Anyways, all right. So Let's go back to the president. Remember, why it's so uncomfortable right now is I'm empathizing with the president right now. He's angry because his need for identity and respect for America is not being met. By the way, conflict shows up. Why? Because he doesn't like conflict. Anytime he runs into conflict, he jumps out of a car. Anytime he's done talking about conflict, he changes the subject. He didn't like conflict. He didn't know how to deal with conflict, especially it's about his identity. He didn't know how to push through anything.
No, I think when he gets resistance and conflict, he usually changes the subject. He misdirects with something else, right?
Misdirects with something else. He just changes to a new context sentence. Now, the reason why media struggles so much with it is they're trying to process context, understand context. And I want to share to all the media people and the politicians that are listening right now. Don't do that. Speak subtext.
So let's say, I mean, the original question I posed at the beginning of this episode is, was the president's statement racist? That question's still hanging out there, but we've already said that sort of maybe misses the point and plays into what the president is probably trying to do, in that, further amp up his base and, create all this turmoil that everybody's talking about him.
Yeah. So let me be Nancy Pelosi for a second. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Or I could be the 4 congresswomen either. This is their best subtext response. You ready?
Ready. Say
the president's statements and watch what I say back.
Okay. Sorry, edit that out, guys. Go back to your crime-infested countries.
So, Mr. President, could you be angry and you really don't like people talking disrespectful to America, and you really don't want me to speak about the conflicts and the issues the way I see them? Is that correct?
Yes.
You don't really like public discourse that has to do with conflict, and you don't want to talk about the real issues. Is that correct? Or the issues. Is that correct?
I don't know how he would answer that. He might come back and say, "Oh, I do want to talk about the issues." I don't know.
So it sounds like you would like to have an issue, and you would like to talk about the issue. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Which issue would you like to talk about? The one I'm talking about right now is fairness and justice inside this piece, and that's the thing I was talking about. Would you like to talk about that issue, or would you like to talk about another issue?
So you just sort of trap him.
No. I'm having him.
You're having a discourse.
I'm having him walk down the plank to jump into the water of having a deeper conversation with me. Whether he can do it or not, that's not the problem. But what I'm also doing is I am not giving him any oxygen to his base or tragic language that gets us in a circular narrative of not going anywhere. The discussion of, am I a racist? Am I not a racist? Is not the most powerful discussion to have. On the outside, people can take that as a racist sentence. Yes, it has been used as a racist sentence. Yes, it has been used as a language of disconnection. Yes, it does make his base move. But as an adult, compassionate human being, I need to learn how to respond in subtext in order to starve oxygen from the context, the tragic context sentence he just said. So, Mr. President, you don't really respect those other countries because those other countries don't have the same rules and they don't play by the same way that we do. Yes. So, Mr. President, you would like some greater ease in those other countries, and you don't really respect them because they struggle in their own way to create safety, and they have problems with safety and meeting the need for safety in their. Yes. Why don't they? They don't have a strong balance between the capitalist system that we have and the socialist system that we have. We have a balanced system of a little bit of capitalism, a little bit of socialism. Why? Because there's certain things that people don't want to pay for because they think to themselves, I don't want to pay for this. Meanwhile, no one wants to call the military a socialist enterprise. Nobody will want to say the military is a socialist enterprise. Nobody's going to say that sentence. That's kind of a little bit of the scary honesty of it, is that everybody contributes to the military in order to meet the need for safety and protection. And we're trusting the politicians to make that proportional to the threats around us, not to use it in order to get votes.
Well,
or contracts.
Well, Bill, so what you're pointing out is, I mean, how to actually get the president to engage and discuss the real issues, which he really probably isn't interested in doing.
No, it'll give him the availability to do it. It'll give him the availability to get his need for respect met, because what happens is, I'm going to say it this way, and it's going to just knock you off the chair a little bit, is that he is in such a triggered state of things. He's just waiting for the next steak he can put on the next sizzle that he can put on the grill. See, it's like he puts the steak off, but he takes the steak right back off, and all you got is the sizzle sitting on the stove. And then he throws another steak in another part of the narrative 15 minutes later. You know, if I'm going to even the, you know, so ask the question again, because there's so many different ways to ask it, for me to respond compassionately to the president. I am being compassionate to a tragic sentence that many people would call, identify, and validate through a dictionary definition that it is a racist sentence. They would, because it's not used at a white person.
Right. That's the transparent part of it.
That's
right?
the transparency. It's not at a press. And there was even the Kellyanne Conway. Thing. And
yeah. So she asked the reporter, "What country are you from?" Putting
right.
it back to him.
Guess what? If he had my training, he would, like, his sentence would be, his sentence back to her says, so I'm guessing you're feeling irritated and you want to know that I'm from Israel, or I'm of Israeli descent, and you have the thought that you could tell me that I should go back to my country, and I get to tell you get to go back to your country of origin if you and I have a conflict. Is that what you're saying to me? She is in bigger trouble than ever, because what she did is she crossed the line, use a context inflammatory sentence. I'm going to say she's looking for her angle. Part of it's conscious, but also it's sloppy language using. It is inflammatory language using. It's the way a used car salesman uses marginalized truth to sell a car on a lot, and try to get the best price he can out of a car that really doesn't work that well. You know, and that's what he's doing, and that's his job. He's got to sell this car, and the car is valued at $3,000, and he's trying to sell it for $4,500 just so that him and his company can make a little bit of money. Is it worth $3,000? Yeah, but it's got broken crap on it. So he's got to use the only language that's available to him that many of us would call lying. but he's got to do the best he can to get rid of the car. And Kellyanne has got to do the best she can to get rid of the tragic expression that the president just launched. She's got to sell it as that it's okay to talk about country of origins. Yes, it is okay, but not as an American value.
It's like she's trying to, it's like the president's words in this case are stolen money and she's trying to launder it.
Wow. Interesting metaphor. And it's pretty close too. It's like, yeah, this is the language that I've been given that I need to respin and repurpose. Now, if she could have went at it compassionately and got away with it and actually been okay. She said, listen, the president uses his First Amendment right to express his anger and his point of view. That's what makes this president different. And he doesn't necessarily say things nicely or neatly all the time. What he does, though, is respond instantly to the American public, and many Americans really like that direct interaction that they have with him through social media. She's just gotten by it and said everything in a truthful way. And yeah, some people could take it as, or many people, or some people could take it as language that's not really used from a public office, that's more used in a private narrative. But he's kind of came from the private marketplace, and he's different from other politicians, and he doesn't say things nicely. Again, I'm giving her talking points right now. It's not my strongest strategy, and some people will not necessarily like this. Now, let me go ahead. I told you this was a bipartisan experience, didn't I, Tom?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. We're looking at language, how language is being used. So let's go on the other side of it. People feel furious. People feel scared. People feel disheartened because it doesn't meet the primary vision of America to talk about us being separate, to talk in ways from a public position about opinions when we're in a place of conflict. Notice that's the response that the 4 congresswomen needed to give to his response, that Nancy Pelosi needs to deliver to the Senate floor. Our First Amendment grants us this. Our need for mutual respect grants us this. And this language is outside of what we stand for as Americans.
All of a sudden, they would appear as the adults in the room that are not taking the bait, and really, the statement, the tweets, the spin after the fact may still very well be racist, but they don't have to argue that point. They would accomplish a lot more.
Yes,
taking a different approach.
It's like many times when I'm talking with my children, I'm going like, I got to teach them that they're not going to get away with this in the outside world, but I've got to I got to pull out the language before I change it. Because if I just get in an argument with them, then they're going to rebel against themselves. They're going to rebel against society, not in a powerful way, but in a destructive way at their own expense. So I got to get their adult mindset to have a balance of directness and compassion, not volatile context language that has multiple meanings that people get to argue with and creates more division and more pain inside a company, inside a family, inside a church, inside a nonprofit, inside a business, inside a government. Context language is causing the conflict. Subtext language has us the ability to speak like an adult in a measured way. I want to speak to what I agree to and what I don't agree to, and then frame it in a compassionate way. I can say, if I'm any Republican right now, I can walk through the halls. People won't like that I'm giving them answers, but I want peace. I want harmony. I want America to really actually restore itself. So I don't mind giving it to both sides, because guess what? I'm going to need them anyways.
Right.
I don't want a bitter person entrenching on something, and they're entrenching so much that they refuse to take what's beneficial to their constituents. Let me say that again, that a politician that is on a partisan line will refuse something that will help their people. How do I know that that takes place? Well, when the Affordable Health Care came out and there was a money available to all the states, Republican leadership in those states did not take the money that was available to their people, causing their people to be sicker and have unavailable insurance to them, cause people to die earlier, to suffer longer, because they needed to vote with their party and not did what was best for their people. Is that sentence true? Absolutely. Do I feel extremely aggravated and sad about it? Yeah. Yeah, that's just sad.
Yeah.
It's sad that you picked an identity over the health of your people. Oh my, just because you were just staying on your team instead of what was best for your people. It was what was best for the people that couldn't afford it. Let them have access to it. You see how I'm pleading?
Yeah, I do.
I'm feeling so sad right now. I'm feeling so sad right now, because that's not the idea of a collaborative and cooperative government. It's not the idea of us as Americans caring for ourselves.
Well, it seems that both sides, even the halls of Congress, they're always speaking to each other in context language. They're really not speaking to each other with subtext language. And that is really the big problem, and really what we're trying to point out here today, right?
And teach, educate, make available. If you want to learn how to speak in subtext language in real time, it takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of language changing, a little bit of more compassionate. You're not going to give any power up. You actually gain power. If a politician were to, whether it's Senator Harris, Mayor Pete, Cory Booker, would you like to raise 10, 15, 20% in the polls? Would you like to do that? Would you like to do that? Would Senator Biden learn how to advance his communication skills?
Oh my gosh.
Would he like more certainty in him being elected?
Well, they all should say yes.
They're all the ideas that they would say yes, right? Yeah, you think they say yes. Yeah, and all of them, because they're all in the position that they're in, they're going to do the tragic response that most people do. I'd rather go with what I am doing that has got me to this place, rather than learn a new skill set and a new languaging pattern that will add, that has the potential to do it. And, because people just validate what has got them there. President Trump validates, this is what's got me here. Republicans just fall in line with this because I got myself here.
Yeah, they're all afraid of being primaried if they don't stay in line with the president, right? Any of them who are up for re-election. And the tragic part of some of the Democrats, like Kamala Harris, who's a very black and white thinker, a prosecutor, may not be able to wrap her head around a change in language that would really advance her, like you say, in the polls, 10, 20 points, and give her a real shot at winning the nomination. Hopefully she would, but she may not.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just a slight language narrative change. It's not big. It's not strong. And and if you go with the president's narrative and draft off of, let's frame that in a different way. If you are able to use the sizzle that he puts into the environment and put your steak right next to the sizzle, it will cook better. It will cook better. So it's like the president, it looks like here's Nancy Pelosi or any of the four congresswomen could use this. Gosh, it seems like the president is in pain about the identity that he sees America as, and I don't really fit his identity, I guess. And this is what I really love about this country is the president has an opinion about the identity of America. I'd kind of rather go with what the founders said about how to deal with conflict than what the president said. What the founders said was this: I followed his narrative. I didn't try to suppress his narrative. I'm not going to scream at the other person. I'm not going to tell the other person I'm not a racist or I am a racist, or you are or I'm not. I'm not going there. I'm going to use the tragic and expressive First Amendment right, the freedom of speech that he has, that I would prefer him not to use as a president, and use in a more laser focused way. He's kind of a flamethrower communicator rather than a laser communicator. So the flamethrower communicator is going to flame throw as much context as they can in the environment and see how many fires they can start. The laser communicator is actually going to make a distinctive movement and separate themselves from the pack.
Yeah.
So you and I are going to smile a whole bunch when this one hits when this is hits, because this is the thing that makes the biggest difference in communication.
Well, and it's going to be so much fun actually to watch as these, candidates on the Democratic side battle it out, and then eventually, when we get down to, one, 2 or 3 total candidates eventually, maybe a year from now, and analyze and sort of Monday morning quarterback a bit, but how they're doing it and who's effective and who's not, and see who either develops some communication skills or tragically, shoots himself in the foot.
Yeah, shoots himself in the foot. It's not, you want to be a fit. You want to raise your profile. You want to be able to create some separation. You want to be known as the person that said that thing. Even one of the first guy that one of the first guys that dropped out of the race has done a really wonderful job of drafting off of his one line that he sent in and his one story that he sent into the narrative. He said, listen, Joe Biden, it's, I was the young kid at 8 years old and I listened to you speak, and it's time for you to pass the torch.
Yeah, I think it's Eric Swalwell, wasn't it?
Thank you very much. I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, and it was wonderful that he had that moment, because that moment allows him to say, listen, you inspired me. You inspired me, and I'm in office now because of you, and you inspired me, and you did pass the torch, and this is as far as the torch, and you did motivate me to be on stage with you, to run for president. It's not a fit at this time, but I'm not fearful of it. I'll come back next time because America's ready for some of these other people, and I'm getting out of the way right now.
Yeah.
They're ready for these other people. And it's an interesting way to do that. And now it's that, former presidential candidate gets to stay on his resume. And what? And Lincoln had many former stuff before he became the president, former this, former this, former this. He just kept getting out there and it's going like, our values, we've got to stand for our values. And why did he fail all of those other races? The reason why he failed is because so many people pounded him with context language back then, I would imagine. And if you look at, the Gettysburg, if you look at the Gettysburg Address, it's a subtext speech.
It is.
It's a subtext speech. It's not a context speech.
Words to remember, and as we all learn how to use a little more subtext language. I like that.
Right. That's right. This has been fun. This has been fun, Tom. We can most certainly take this out for several different nuances as we move forward.
I look forward to that. Thank you so much, Bill. I hope our listeners liked it too. Don't forget to check out the blog post at billstierle.com for either the video or the slides so you can see the sort of difference. But hopefully it's pretty clear coming across in audio.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.